Hello, everyone. This is StrawberryShorty here with a recap and commentary of Interview with the Vampire, Season 2, Episode 2. Do you know what it means to be loved by death? Last video came out better than I expected, but there were a few hiccups. I apologize in advance for any that may occur in this video, and with that, let's get started. We start off with Louis talking about Paris, even though I totally thought he was moving to New Orleans. He likes Paris. It almost makes him happy thinking about it. Armand also likes it. Daniel hates it. He proposed to and got divorced by his wife in Paris. Claudia and Louis are surviving by pickpocketing. What happened to all the money they had? And can't they just, kill and rob some evil person? Anyway, Armand reveals it's proper for traveling vampires to introduce themselves to the local coven, which I think sounds like a terrible idea. But naturally, Louis and Claudia knew nothing about it. Louis and Armand in the present are like being a total couple. And Daniel is not swayed in the slightest. He makes some more comments in response to their romanticizing of Paris, and we get unamused Armand face. Daniel is the one part of the story that we have no idea of, given the changes they've made to the narrative, but I'm rooting for him. Anyway, Armand makes sure to point out that Louis has been with him longer than Lestat. So, getting back to the past, Louis describes the life he lived with Claudia, with Armand continuing to interject about how much his group had to secretly clean up after them. Daniel points out that none of them ever made contact during that time, which Louis admits that he suffered from anxiety about this for 5 months. Armand ran a theater called the Théâtre des Vampires or something like that. I'm not French. I'll speak French. I can't believe Louis never put two and two together. Louis claims he'd had enough of the theater from his time with Lestat. They're also still being way too coupley, and it makes me feel like getting to the more emotional side of Louis might be difficult in these circumstances. Armand's presence turns everything into a much happier memory, it seems. Anyway, Louis feeds on a poor pigeon in the place he shares with Claudia, and takes up photography as a hobby. While sitting outside at a cafe, Claudia, who looks very grown up in this moment, asks Louis what he looks for when he takes photographs. The look on her face when he launches into this poetic explanation would make Daniel proud. She tries to get Louis to talk about who he is and what he wants outside of her and Lestat. Daniel realizes Claudia was miserable and hated Paris as much as he does. Louis claims she was just trying to give him permission to find a life beyond her. Armand interjects and implies Daniel is really talking about Alice rather than Claudia. And it seems to me Armand is trying to throw him off. Louis helps, bringing up a time when Alice was with Daniel. He was working on his book at some brasserie, whatever that is. Told him he was pregnant, and he just replied with they talk about it later. In the present, he defends this, saying he knows he won't finish the book if he leaves. It's not cool of him, though. Can you imagine telling your partner you're pregnant and just getting such a dismissive response? Daniel steers the conversation back to Claudia, bringing up her disinterest in Paris and uncertainty regarding what she wants. She suspects she doesn't want to upset Louis, or whether for his happiness to depend on hers anymore. While walking the streets alone, she takes some interest in a dress in a window and the woman who made it, who was working away within the shop. Kind of messed that up a bit. I totally got lost in my written notes. A man warns her she shouldn't go in, but of course, Claudia doesn't listen. She admires the dress, even though the woman tells her they're closed. Claudia expresses an interest in the dress being altered to fit her, and the woman tells her not to pretend to be something she isn't. Womanhood will happen soon enough. Claudia admits her life hasn't been easy, and that if it had, maybe she'd be a lonely dressmaker, denying her only potential customer. And she insists on having the dress. In the present, real Rashid returns to provide Daniel with the photographs Louis took in Paris. There's even one of Claudia, so I guess vampires can be photographed in this universe. I don't really recall if that was a thing in the books. As I continue to feel bad for poor Rashid, who continues to just be a man trying to do his job, Armand seems irritated And thankfully we get back to the interview story soon enough. Man, I feel like I am just butchering this a little bit. Totally, messed up my sentences. Anyway, Louis wanders a park at night looking for love. Armand, who had been keeping an eye on Louis, was losing patience. He believed that they were being toyed with and could only keep his coven at bay for so long. We are introduced to Armand with a hat, who intends to approach Louis and let him know how rogue vampires are dealt with in Paris. What even is that? You don't come say hi, you're a criminal? And at the very least, you'd think that they'd be aware that many vampires would exist that knew nothing of these unofficial rules. Seriously, I hate unspoken rules. I could go off on a whole tangent about them, but I won't. Anyway, Armand with a hat approaches Louis, who thinks he looks like a boy masquerading as a gentleman. They're trying way too hard to pass these characters off as younger than they are. I mean, Claudia is a teen who can easily pass for a woman based on how she dresses, as proven by the cafe scene, and Armand isn't the 17-year-old he was in the books. He's at least in his 20s, and while he does have a young look about him, I can't agree with Louis' assessment of his appearance personally. Anyway, Louis senses Armand's power, and the two just kind of stare at each other. In the present, they're wearing the strangest expressions, with Armand's naturally being difficult to pin down. Daniel pushes for them to continue. Armand's first words to Louis were apparently, "I will not harm you," and he states in the present that he never has. Not sure I buy that. Harm isn't just physical, something Lestat proved. And if things go the way they did in the books, well, we'll get there when we get there. Armand summons Louis and Claudia to his theater, and that plan to intimidate Louis, I guess, went right out the window. We see Claudia admiring herself in a mirror. I think she's supposed to be wearing the dress from the shop, but I swear it was a darker color. Anyway, she's thrilled to hear Louis has made contact with another vampire and eagerly accompanies him to the theater. A man with ridiculous vampire teeth tells them that they have the finest seats available. And the show that kicks off within is pretty corny at first. Vampires pretending to be humans, pretending to be vampires, as the movie put it. The show is hosted by who I believe is Santiago, and I like the look of this version way more than the one in the movie. Anyhow, Santiago tells them that what they're about to see is real and loves the audience even as they disgust him. The show continues to be, as Louis puts it, weird. Claudia loved it, and Louis states that it was the first time he'd seen her truly happy in Paris. And then we get to the last part, which, again, feels a little like something out of Deathly Hallows. Put on the invisibility cloak. Anyway, the performance is interrupted by a bound and hysterical woman who insists the vampires are going to kill everyone. She claims the performers kidnapped her last night and begs the audience for help, but they assume it's part of the show. I knew this part was coming, but it's still so hard to see this poor girl begging for her life. Santiago implies someone else could take her place, but the woman refuses to sacrifice her husband or her son. She's fine with some random guy in the audience taking her place, but given how the audience has reacted so far and how scared she is, I can't really hold it against her. Louis' expression is mine right now. And there's the title drop. Santiago and the other vampires feast on the woman, seemingly killing her. Louis is upset, thank goodness. But Claudia and the rest of the audience love it. Wasn't Claudia's whole goal to meet some vampires who weren't bastards? How does Louis end up with Armand after this? I'd be running for the hills. Man, we really need a sarcastic remark or two from Daniel. Anyway, Armand brings Louis and Claudia behind the stage or below the stage, where the pair are confronted by Santiago for having not shown their faces in 5 months. The group ultimately doesn't seem upset, however, and ultimately greet the pair. Louis and Claudia get blindsided with a question about their maker, and Claudia claims it was the jerk who hurt her. It's a bad lie and one that will undoubtedly backfire later. My guess is that Armand will confront one of them about it in private. Claudia notes a portrait of a handsome man on the wall and is told it's their co-founder and a fine actor, Lestat. Did they not recognize him? Anyway, Daniel claims to have not seen that coming, but hasn't he heard this story before? I guess we could take it as the original interview having been the movie, with one of the inaccuracies being that Lestat was never mentioned in relation to the theater. Anyway, Daniel calls it a red flag, and we get a close-up of his computer screen that feels like it should mean something, but I can't figure out what. I'm going to watch Maven's video on this episode while waiting for mine to finish saving. Maybe she'll have some idea. Armand tries to excuse this twist by claiming it's not uncommon for most vampires to cross paths at some point. But I guess Daniel was actually just looking up some music because he plays a soap opera tune and starts mocking them. Comes out that Armand not only knew Lestat, but they were even a couple for some time. Daniel loves this latest twist, while Armand reveals he also had relations with Santiago and numerous other members of the group. Louis insists that while Lestat's appearance is important, it's not in the way Daniel thinks. Daniel just wants the story to continue. Back at their place, Claudia explains her lie. She spotted the picture of Lestat before asking about it, which is why she figured it would be best to hide their true maker. That creep was the only other vampire she knew, which isn't exactly true, and the best lies always have a bit of truth to them. Claudia tries to tell Louis everything will be fine, and Louis doesn't agree. Given Claudia isn't around in the present so far, I'm betting on Louis being right on this one. And Claudia was also apparently able to invade the vampire's thoughts, which is why she's sure they don't know anything. This is concerning, since if she can do it, maybe one or more of them can too. She wants to stay, while I'm with Louis that it's not even remotely safe, especially since they should both be well aware Lestat is likely not dead. Claudia also has noticed that Louis and Armand have feelings for each other, despite having barely spoke. She knows some other things too, but I will spare you the details there. Anyway, Louis realizes he needs proof that Lestat is actually dead. So he goes to the place where Lestat got his money from. Maybe that's why they don't have money, like, since Lestat might still be alive, they don't want to risk touching what is probably his and letting him know where they are. I feel like they could have just emptied the bank accounts and ran, but, oh, whatever. The guy there apparently knows what Lestat is and who Louis is. He claims not to have heard from Lestat since his withdrawals for that party, but entrusts Louis with a box. Louis takes out a letter addressed to him, which Lestat takes from him and reads out loud. Lestat regrets that they now exist in separate worlds, and urges him not to waste his life trying to get revenge on whoever is responsible. How ironic. Lestat tells him to carry on living and says he's the only person he trusts and loves beyond himself. Even more ironic. Well, this almost certainly isn't going to help Louis' mental state. Daniel is back with the quips, questioning whether Armand is really the love of Louis' life or just a rebound. Armand doesn't like that. He has found humor in Louis' pain. And Daniel dismisses his words as a joke. Louis finally takes a shot at Daniel, bringing up Alice's pregnancy. She was in her 3rd trimester, and Daniel was suddenly more confident around her and had worked hard to get them this certain table at a restaurant. Daniel's illness begins acting up, but Louis continues. Daniel had picked that moment to propose, and as Louis asks what she said, there's this weird moment where Daniel sees Armand speaking. Armand appears to be somewhere else, and we can't tell what he's saying. Is this a past memory? Is Armand doing something? Is he making Daniel see something? Because that is a power Armand has in the books. We get another scene like this, only this time it's Armand bringing up a memory from Daniel's childhood. Like, if these two met before, it's a random memory not at all related to what's being talked about now, so that's the impression I'm getting. Like what Louis is doing now is bringing back memories of something Armand did that was similar in the past. Louis, calling Daniel Danny, asks him what Alice's response was. Daniel admits she said no, and Louis finds this amusing. Armand tries to stop him during this and tells Daniel she wanted to say yes, but didn't trust him. He hadn't given her a reason to. Louis asks if he wants to know what Alice thinks of him now, if she even does. I feel way better for Daniel, who is clearly upset than I ever did for Louis in the moments where Daniel snarks at him about his past. Anyway, Armand suggests that they could return to the interview, provided Daniel is willing to just do his job and listen. This makes me all the more suspicious because while Daniel's remarks may be a bit harsh at times, they have helped Louis. Daniel agrees, and both him and Louis' actor are really good with the emotional moments. I just gotta say that. Anyway, he asks them what happened next. Louis says that he and Claudia were invited on a hunt. Claudia had attended a month of performances, which had made them believe she was sincere. Louis fell asleep during one, so Santiago doesn't like him now. I'm not sure if that's a good or a bad thing. Why did he keep going to them? I wouldn't want to watch a spectacle like that last one ever again. They ride motorcycles without even playing any card games, and Claudia is having the time of her life. They travel far away to intensify their hunger, and Louis is taking pictures while they are speeding around that somehow have absolutely no motion blur. That is the most unrealistic thing I have seen in this entire show so far. Like, my modern day digital camera can't even take a picture of a cat without it becoming a blurry mess the moment the cat moves their head. Anyway, Louis exchanges a few mental words with Armand wearing glasses, who urges him to forget his camera and have fun with them. They reach the mansion of a family that made money manipulating the black market. Santiago kills the guards and uses his power to find out all of the people that are in the mansion. It seems like none of them are children at the very least, but I still feel like a bunch of innocent people are going to die. Louis hangs back to chat with Armand and proves to be really inconsistent upon what bothers him when it comes to people being slaughtered. The two talk, and Armand says Claudia is good at blocking her thoughts, while Louis is not. Armand offers to help him, but all I can think is that everybody totally already knows about Lestat, because how could they not? Wouldn't Louis be stressing about it every time he was around them? And sure enough, Armand felt his trepidation when Lestat's name was uttered, and while admitting to being just as enamored with Louis as Louis is with him, Armand advises him not to lie. He at least doesn't know the details, and warns him the coven can be volatile, especially when lied to. Armand also advises him to never visit the place he went to check on Lestat ever again, because that kind of inquiry can cause all kinds of trouble. The other vampires return, carrying a new victim for their show, and set the mansion on fire. Claudia is happier than ever, and Louis finally looks shaken as they all head back. I mostly enjoyed this episode, though some scenes were a bit hard for me to watch, as they were for Louis. I really think it would be better for him if he were to just leave. This isn't going to end well. I wonder how differently things would have turned out if he had. Like, naturally, I don't know what the show's outcome is going to be, but I feel like certain events aren't going to be altered much. So, anyway, that's all for now. Thank you for watching. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I'll catch you next time. Bye!